This week, we talk to a young woman who uses her e-bike to commute from the city to the suburbs, go grocery shopping, and monitor Chicago's Piping Plovers. Take a listen. Is this your bike? And can you tell me about it?
Yes, so this is my bike. It is a Surface E-Dart. I call her a glowworm. She goes about 20 miles per hour when I turn up the assist all the way. And I've been really enjoying riding my e-bike. I've had her for about a year now, a little over that. And I've put about 2,000 miles on the odometer, which is just, it's very freeing. I don't own a car. I haven't owned a car since moving to the city. And it's just been very neat, kind of being able to determine where I go and when I go, more so than when I was fully reliant on the CTA.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And how long have you been biking and what got you into it?
I first got into biking like as an adult. I had a bike when I was in college, but that was pretty tough. I'm originally from Texas, and the college town that I lived in was very, very hilly.
Mm-hmm.
So I would usually like ride my bike to class and then walk it back. And then when I moved to Chicago, obviously I don't have a car, and during the pandemic kind of got more into biking as a means of getting around safely, and then also just fun, exercise, that kind of stuff. Got a couple bikes stolen, but I take very good care of this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just to touch on that briefly, what happened or what do you do differently?
Yeah, so my first bike that I had in the city, I was living in Lakeview East, and I kept it locked up outside because I didn't feel like trucking it. I lived on the second floor and I didn't feel like bringing it up and down with me every time. So I kept it locked outside, and it just vanished in broad daylight one day. I left at like noon and came back at like 4 p.m. and it was gone.
Wow.
No sign of it. It was parked outside a cafe, and I asked for their security camera footage, and they were like, "Oh, those cameras are fake."
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I don't do that anymore. Honestly, every time I lock this bike up outside somewhere and then I leave for an extended period, every time I come back and it's still there, it feels like a miracle.
Okay. Yeah, that's an unfortunate part of biking in the city.
Mm-hmm.
Do you keep this inside then? Like, what did you do differently
Yeah,
for this
so
one?
I either, my building has a backyard,
Mm-hmm.
so I either bring it into my apartment and just keep it in there, usually when it's raining, or I will just lock it up in the backyard and then take off the battery and plug that in inside.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. And what do you use your bike for? Yeah, this looks pretty practical. You've got the milk crate on the back. It's an e-bike. What does that look like?
Yeah, so I use it basically for everything. I use it for commuting. I go to the grocery store. I can just fit like one or two of the like paper bags or like reusable bags back here. And just kind of like visiting friends, going pretty much anywhere. It's very freeing and it's really fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. And what do you like about biking in Chicago? What makes it special for you?
Honestly, just every time I'm riding on the lakefront, I feel like the luckiest person on earth. It just looking out at all of the greenery and the lake and being like out there in community with other people who are walking and riding their bikes just feels like I'm part of something bigger.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really great place to live, and it's a really great place to ride a bike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And are there things that you dislike about biking in Chicago or things that you wish could be better?
Yeah, cars, obviously. There are places where I don't necessarily, even with, like this level of freedom that I have, that I don't necessarily feel safe getting to, just because of, traffic being the way that it is. I really tend to, if I can go out of my way to go on a trail or back roads or anything like that, I always do. I really tend to favor the lakefront, and so when somebody's asking me to go a little bit farther west, I'm like, okay, I'll work it out. I've been in an accident before. That was really scary. Yeah, I was on my way to work. It was like 6:30 in the morning, and I got a car turned right in front of me without their turn signal. Luckily, I braked in time, but I did whack my face on the pavement.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so I obviously wasn't able to go to work that day, and it was kind of a miracle that I kept my teeth. That's what the dentist said, at least. So that's, that's tough. I wish that that was better, and I wish that drivers were a little bit more respectful. Because I often find that when I'm talking to people who have cars and then they find out that I ride a bike, they're like, "Oh, well, do you stop at stop signs?" And my response to that is always, "Well, do you stop at stop signs?" And usually there's a little bit of backpedaling there where they're like, "Huh, I guess I don't really." Which is pretty upsetting, there's a lot of distracted drivers on the road. I feel like every time I look up and like look in somebody's front windshield, I see that they're like texting or just doing something that I feel like I'm getting a lot of like input when I'm riding my bike. I'm like looking around, I'm seeing everything, I'm hearing everything. And it feels like when you're in this great big car and you've got your AC blasting and you've got your music and you've got your windows up and they're maybe tinted, it's like, well, of course you're not getting as much information about what's going on around you. Um, so that's probably my least favorite part of riding in the city, but I feel like I'm usually able to avoid it pretty well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And when you had your accident, did you end up talking to the driver?
No, I don't think he noticed. He just drove
Oh,
away. Yeah,
wow.
there were the only people who stopped were pedestrians.
Okay,
Yeah, there
wow.
were people on the street who stopped, but I don't think I think that he just moved on with his day. He had no idea.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
If I had ended up needing like dental work or like emergency services or anything, I definitely would have like gotten the security camera footage from like I was at a street corner, there was a restaurant nearby, so I definitely would have gone for that. But considering that everything ended up being fine, like with my face and I didn't have a concussion, I was like, I'm just gonna call this fine.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna worry too much about it.
yeah.
But yeah, no, he did not stop.
Oh my God. Wow. Well, moving to maybe a little more positive question, what's one of your favorite recent experiences biking? I mean, you've put 2,000 miles in a year is a lot,
Yeah.
so I imagine you've had a lot of fun on your bike.
Yeah, I mean it's really great. Favorite moments? I guess just like when I used to work in Evanston, a big portion of my ride home would be on the lakefront. And I first got my bike in the summer. It was, beautiful out like every single day. And just getting to listen to my music and like uh, just enjoy nature. So that was amazing. But then the first time that I got to do it for this summer, like feeling like the cyclical nature, just felt like I was. I mean, I've said it before, but it felt like I was part of something. It felt like I am part of nature. Just like getting to go to the same place year over year and experience the same kinds of things, even though I am different as a person. I've had an entire year of experience riding and being out and, I mean, living life, going to work and going to school. Um, it just felt like I, I, I cried. Because it just felt like something was happening.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And you mentioned, like when we were walking up here, you talked about the piping plovers and like
Hmm.
birding and how biking kind of lets you come up to that. Is that something you've noticed, that biking makes it a little easier for you to connect with nature rather than having to drive somewhere and park and get out?
Absolutely. Yeah, no. So I monitor the piping plovers. I come out here once a week and I just sit and I just kind of like for 2 hours I just look at them. And it's nice getting to sit here on the pier and there's lots of people walking by and people riding their bikes. It just feels like I get to meet a lot of people. It's a very human thing. It feels like I get to enjoy like the scenery and I get to listen to the birds. Like as somebody who's like recently getting into birding, that feels like so exciting. Like when I'm riding home or from wherever and I just hear birds that I've been learning about. That's really neat. Getting to talk to people about different, things in the city, specifically the natural things like the plovers. Um, it just feels like I feel so much more connected to people.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Maybe one last question here. As someone who's, experienced a biking accident and kind of has some of that trepidation around biking in heavier traffic, what kind of improvements do you wish the city would make to make that easier for you? Are there things that you feel like make that better or worse?
Yeah. So my accident, I was in like a bike lane. Um, and so I think the whole thing of like paint is not protection. I think cars are just not really looking out. I've never heard an argument against bikes being on the street that doesn't eventually add up to, I don't like that I have to pay more attention. And so I think that I don't know that there's necessarily anything that the city could do to encourage drivers to pay more attention, but I think that we can share the roads. I think that having more like actual dedicated infrastructure would be huge. I think that having like bollards to protect the bike lanes, maybe raised bike lanes. The paint obviously is great, but it's not enough. Um, like a full bike grid, more greenways. That would be huge.
Absolutely. Well, I think those are all the questions I have. So is there anything else that you want to say about your biking experience or that you want to tell the people?
I guess just you should do it. I feel like if you're watching an interview on a platform called Chicagoans Who Bike, you probably already have some interest, but I would really encourage people to get out more often. There's just so much cool stuff that you can see in the city that I feel like you can see in a unique way from the perspective of riding a bike. Um, yeah, I guess
Cool.
that's it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for watching that interview. Subscribe to see more conversations with Chicagoans biking around their city, dropping every other week.